it's absolutely important that we enjoy what we read. Every year, lots of educators go all out when it comes to read aloud. You make a plan, you make it happen, and we want the reading to continue. So for our educators out there, you are definitely saying, yes, it's a read aloud. It's absolutely important. We have to know what to do, how to read. When you're looking at the literacy rate of reading in South Africa, it's quite glim. It's not good, and we need to encourage literacy. So our guest in studio don't need much introduction. She is Sister Reyhana Sayed, the blogger, the media, the socialite, the person who encourages, has set precedents, the bar from creative classroom concept, and she's also an educator by profession at Al Falah College. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to School Matters.
Wa alaikum salam, and always a pleasure to be on air with you, Sumaya. You caught me, hey? You saw me at the Gaza for Children walk, and you said you were going to push me to do something, and I think I said no the first time of the first week of the holidays, or back to school, if I have to put it.
And we still got to do a cooking thing, huh?
We do.
And the best part of it, we're live on YouTube. And there's a little screen in front of us, so we can even do things.
Please just don't ask me to redo the scarf.
I can picture the excitement for Read Aloud and all the planning and the preps, because these are like, when we were little, we can remember the character days where we dressed up and did stuff like that, and from book characters. So I can imagine the excitement. So our focus tonight is reading aloud. To begin with, tell us, what's the purpose of today's choice of topic, reading out aloud?
Well, yes, World Read Aloud Day is the first of many, if I have to say, reading enrichment days or world days. There's World Literacy Day, there's World Book Day. There's so many amazing days out there where we focus on. I would like to say what our focus is today, and that is our aim is to inspire and to inform the listeners out there about the essence of a World Read Aloud Day, because reading aloud helps our students to learn how to use the language and to make sense of the world around them. It improves their information processing skills, their vocabulary, their comprehension. I would say that reading aloud and focusing on something like World Read Aloud Day targets the skills of our audio learners. So remember, Sumaya, we have our 5 senses, and we want to use all those 5 senses when we are teaching or when we are parenting children, if I have to say. And the main focus today is on reading aloud and the importance of it as a perspective from a teacher as well as a parent. So it's for the adults out there. And I mean, when last has a listener out there picked up the newspaper, talking about, print material? When last, I know you're going to say when it's to look at the specials, the Ramadan specials.
The Gazette, well, I'm not going to market any newspapers, community newspapers, but you are so right in what you're saying, because very few people buy the newspaper.
Yes. When I say somebody gone into a store, a bookstore, browsed through and really said, I want to buy this book. This is a book that I really want to buy, or something like that. I am maybe the exception, because I follow every trend of a book out there, and we'll chat about that a little bit later when it comes to maybe my favorites, if you want to ask me. But for me, I'm an avid reader. I will tell you a little bit later what sort of an avid reader I am.
Silhouettes?
No. Not in the least, but in fact, I'll just give you the answer right now, is that I do not read something that's fiction.
Yeah.
For me, as growing up as a teenager, I might have read it when I was little, but as a teenager growing up and then into womanhood, I always read books that were non-fiction. I would rather pick up an autobiography. I'm a realist. I would rather pick up a magazine. I was an ardent magazine reader. I had every Good Housekeeping, Woman's Value, Your Family. I cut out recipes.
Exactly.
It's why I am where I am when it comes to delectables or creative classroom.
You mentioned that when I think of my late mom. Every Living and Loving, every magazine was like it was, kept in a special place. And for the recipes, and for the newspaper articles, we never have WhatsApp mix-up. Oh gosh,
I have like inside jokes to me. Like I'll see a cute baby and I'll say, "Oh, this one belongs in Living and Loving," and nobody gets me. Like
no one
it belongs in Living and Loving.
Exactly, and recently Zuleka Malik passed away. I remember growing up when I was like still in high school or even in senior primary, when we bored, I would actually, because I love also cooking and baking, and I'd love, my mother had the red one and the brown one, all the different editions, and just to look at the pictures. And for everyone's wedding and for anyone we knew getting married in the family, that was the book we gave, even the blue edition. And my mother will say, adjust it, alter it, make it to your liking. And
so we all had a read aloud. We had to read aloud. Sometimes we read aloud to ourselves, maybe, and then we read the recipe out and we'll say it needs 2 cups of something, of flour or something like that. So yes, we speak about what is the importance of read aloud or reading aloud, then I'm definitely going to say that one of the most important things for parents and children and what they can do for children is read aloud to children. That needs to come back. The picture perfect family would have story time before the end of the day, wind down time. And I think that, and I'm really generalizing, that now it's screen time and then phone time, and children are not winding down. I still think that it's important that at least an hour before, even homework is so stimulating, so maybe choose an activity that is not overstimulating to the brain. Have a little bit of read aloud time, and 15 minutes of read aloud time a day is proof in the pudding of the most amazing results, which we will speak about later in the program, and the benefits of it.
So you touched a bit of the importance of reading aloud. What is the purpose of read aloud in the day?
Reading aloud builds many important foundational skills, introduces vocabulary, provides a model of fluency and an expressive way of reading, and it also helps our children recognize what reading for pleasure is all about. And I would think that the purpose of World Read Aloud Day is, as we said, to inform and to inspire, and World Read Aloud Day is about celebrating the power of the reading of something aloud.
Exactly.
It encourages children and adults to grab a book, to find an audience, and to read aloud. And we speak about books here, okay? But how many? What about Quran? Our children read aloud Quran. So I think that when we speak about books, it's not only focused on, if I had to say, curriculum matters, but more as well as, diverse of religious, material, of newspapers, of any single thing that you take, and you read. But today, of course, being a foundation phase educator, I will focus on stories and, storybooks. Yes, I have a whole pile.
Yes, on your table. You can probably flash it in front of your little, screen there. It's amazing. You have a whole lots of books, and those glossy covers, no matter what you say, even if they're old, they still light up a room.
Of course,
they still light up a room. Reading should bring joy to a child's world. Can you elaborate on this statement?
I think that stories and books and reading all shape what we think and who we are by the connections we make with the characters, their situations, and the settings in which the stories take place. Most children are unaware that they are making such amazing connections as they learn to think and act like good readers. I brought a book that I used. I bought it in lockdown. It's such an inspirational book, and maybe we will show it out there. I think we'll show it to and it's all about Humpty Dumpty, but what happened after the fall. So nobody speaks about what happened to Humpty Dumpty after the fall.
And is that a book?
And it is a story book. It's about how Humpty Dumpty got back up again, and how Humpty Dumpty actually had a fear for heights. So
Wow.
when it was lockdown, I actually think it was when it was the unrest and the kids had to go back to school after all that time. And we hate to speak about the bad things, but I mean, the past shapes us into the future.
Exactly.
Not going to, and I read this book to the kids about how Humpty Dumpty, he fell off that wall, he cracked, and in a nutshell, he went to the hospital. They patched him up again, and then every single day he passed that wall, and he hated it because he had a fear for heights suddenly. And one day he said he was just going to climb that wall.
Wow.
He was going to get up again, and he was going to, he loved to sit on that wall or whatever. So as I'm saying is that it makes a connection with a reader. A good reader will realize, you know what, I relate to this. I'm afraid of heights, or I'm afraid of something. But listen, I was afraid of the unrest of being inside my home and feeling fear. But I conquered that because I'm back at school, and it's okay to feel safe at school.
And
because
exactly.
Humpty Dumpty did it,
And when you think about certain books,
Mhm.
that can relate to a learner from anywhere.
Yes.
Any background.
Yes, you can take it and read it to a high school student. I mean, it's not something that...
It's actually an inspirational or motivation in a way.
Yeah, so that's one of my favorite books, and
Okay.
it's something that I can relate to and tell the listeners out there. But that's what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
where you make a connection with a book, you realize that, and that's what reading aloud is about understanding it, about. I'm speaking as reading aloud as in the teacher reading the story
Yeah.
or the parent reading the story, because ultimately we advocate for children
Exactly.
to love a book and to love and make that connection with a
You
book.
know, Reyhana, I know when I was in school, you always had the children, and sometimes we should get that, when it came to just reading like a set work, kids are so put off. I don't know why.
Yeah. So I think that needs to change. I remember being a drama student. I was a speech and drama student, and then of course English, and then we had a set book for everything. We had a set book for drama. I remember reading District 6.
Yes. Yeah.
District 6 was. I remember reading. What was it? I don't know.
But a whole lot of
Whatever. I
books.
don't know. I can't even remember right now.
Go.
Yeah.
And, please share with us the key benefits of reading aloud.
I'm going to say that there are 5 key benefits for reading aloud. I'd say that children, the first one is that children can listen on a higher language level than they can read. So in other words, their listening comprehension outspaces their reading comprehension. So that's different. When you're reading something and you're comprehending, it's different from listening. I put up a post the other day about actively listening. So are you actively listening to the story? So that's one of the key benefits of creating that higher language level. Reading aloud makes complex ideas more accessible to children. So if you take a book like a Roald Dahl book, and I'm going to say the new Willy Wonka book or something like that, because I bought the book and did not watch the movie. I'm that sort of a teacher, and it's complex. So any one of Roald Dahl books are complex, So understanding that is what what I'm saying is that that's the comprehension part of it. And then of course, read alouds also provide children access to information and experiences even when they cannot yet read all the words.
Yeah.
So as an adult, your little one might not be able to read the words, but when you read the story to them, they understand the story.
And, I don't know even though I'm a teacher, but you guys with the preschools, foundation phase, I don't know what magic you'll do, because the kids can still read in picture form. You'll do storybooks, drawing books. You make them write their story by drawing pictures.
Yes, so that would obviously be creative writing, where we give a picture and then we tell the kid to almost unpack the picture and then tell us as a story, what do you think it is? I use the hamburger or the burger method, where I tell them, you start with the bun at the bottom, you give your introduction, the time, time, place, and then the middle part is the juicy part, and that's where you can add all the spice in it, and then eventually you end the story with. So that's just, if I have to say, then you read the story aloud out to us, and it makes sense because you've created that whole story. So that was the one key benefit. Moving on to the second one, there are 5.
Yeah.
Reading aloud makes rich and engaging books available to all readers and helps them become better readers. So reading at any age it benefits your hearing, and it benefits you experiencing a wonderful book. So when you read a book to your kids, they experience the book, and at any age, if I have to say. Just think about all the many reading authors all over the world, the most famous ones and the not so famous ones, and we will chat about that later. But whether you're young or old or everything in between, hearing a story being read aloud is an enriching, activity that sparks a lifelong love for literature.
Just off the cuff, when you're talking about reading real things, one of my regular guests, I don't know whether you've met him, Daniel Alexandra, he comes quite often. He first came on my show, I think about maybe 14 years ago. He wrote the book Crimson Tears about his life.
Okay, yes.
But his journey has changed so much that now he's gone into something completely different. We always joke about it, how like you've written a book about.
So Roald Dahl started, and he became famous now with the whole Gaza genocide and stuff, because he initially was a fighter pilot, and he wrote books about and going solo is one of his books that he wrote about his adventures as a fighter pilot, and when he had stopped in Palestine and he saw a Jewish person there, and that person said no. He said, "What are you doing here?" And he said that was first proof of in literature that a British author had said that. He said, no, we're coming to take over the land, and so and so. And it is trending at the moment. But his first ever book was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Yeah. And he went to boarding school. So I'm speaking about how reading aloud had shaped it. And at boarding school, close by was a chocolate factory. And the chocolate factory would send the kids at boarding school chocolates to try out. And that was his inspiration.
Wow.
So it's something that, so you saying that your guest, he's diverted now from his thought of writing that sort of books. The same with Roald Dahl or many other, if I have to say, authors out there. So the third benefit of reading out aloud is that being exposed to a wide range of stories and books allows children to see themselves as well as other people, cultures, communities, and issues in the books that they read. Like we said now, nobody would have thought, I'm looking at this British author going solo, and he wrote that book, and there was extract Palestine in that book, So that would be relatable to an example of what I'm speaking of. They see how characters in books handle the same fears, the interests, and the concerns that we all experience, like Humpty Dumpty. He was afraid of heights, and likewise, you build that connection. So children use real life to help them understand. And through books, the children, they understand real life. So it's a win-win situation. You are able to speak of, if I have to say, you're able to speak of an experience from maybe a book that you had. Diary of a Wimpy Kid is something that, is relatable.
Yeah, very, very common.
And common for children, for this. So choose books that invite children to respond with enthusiasm and understanding. That was number 3. The fourth one is modeling. And modeling encourages children to develop the habits and strategies proficient readers employ, meaning that children learn best through observing, absorbing, and then they mimic,
Well, so I've noticed this with my little one. They mimic the teachers. No, I mean it's so amazing.
Put a disclaimer here.
No, it's amazing. Think about it.
My disclaimer is that anything you hear about me, please don't say it, because I promise I won't hear and say anything. I
think about it when we were growing up, when we should act like teachers.
Yes, and you pretend. Yeah.
How we used to do it.
So I think modeling, when it comes to reading aloud, is that by modeling how fluent a reader thinks about the text and the problem solving and the actions. And I say you have to make the faces and everything else. And there's no better compliment in a classroom than when a child says to you, or if a parent hears this compliment, but you're the best storyteller in the whole wide world. Not even the world, the whole wide world, That's a compliment,
I think we as educators, even in the government sector, lounge numbers. There's so many admin. We always complain. Reading just becomes like a part of like, okay, life skills.
A task,
a
yes.
task.
Yeah.
So bring back that, even though the kids can't read, but bring back that hype, that passion, that excitement.
Yeah, so bring back 10 minutes of reading time. I love to stop, I'm going to speak about those later on.
Yeah.
But finally, the benefits of reading aloud is that the fifth benefit is that reading aloud builds vocabulary. And the number of words that children hear as preschoolers actually predicts how many words they can understand and how quickly they learn new words in the foundation phase. So instead of using, he had a big, he saw a big elephant at the zoo, that book is not going to say it that way. That book is going to say, he saw a huge elephant at the zoo. And then automatically your preschooler knows the word huge. When it comes to synonyms in term 3,
you know what? Since you mentioned
they're going to know the vocab.
I just have to mention this. My little one, we were saying something. I said, I'm your... Something I shouted her. And she said, I'm your mother. She's saying, no, you're a noun. So I was like, what a name.
You're a person now.
This was in grade 1 last year. And I'm thinking like, okay, so mommy's a noun. Okay. And I mean, I'm a grade 6 English teacher. So, okay, so you're learning. So look at how is it. So, but it looks like how a little brain can just absorb and take in things. That's a fun part, the sponge part,
So obviously reading aloud, it promotes social and emotional growth, and reading and story time are good ways to deal with difficult topics. So it's easier to approach children with a topic and the choice that a character has made than to lecture them about a real experience in which the adult thinks the wrong choice was made. So for instance, there are books that are called It's Great to Get Along with Each Other, or It's Great to Be Kind, or It's Great to Work as a Team. And those sort of books are readily available in our local bookshops. They are, and they're not very expensive. They teach you about kindness and they give you a scenario. So that's a wonderful way, that it's a benefit of reading aloud and telling the story and getting it across that And with regards to Islam, we're so lucky because we can use the sunnahs. So we can say, we have the stories of the Sahabas. We have amazing stories that we can use, and it's to our benefit. And to say, but the Prophet ﷺ wouldn't have liked that. And do you know the story of what happened? And or do you know the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam? And people were not very kind to him, but he was still kind to them. And so you find books like that. And we have local books. You have an Al-Ansar bookshop right here. So
now Sister Fatima Karim from Community Bars, and also I call her, I actually have her saved. If she's listening, I got her saved as Fatima Karim Bookshop. And you know what? They have amazing books. And I think on her show, she talks, or she just highlights on some books. And I know the Al-Ansar Bookshop, when I meet people, even families and friends, they say, it was also like a trip to come and get your favorite book.
Of course, yes. You know what? I used to buy 2 books back in the day. Then I would cut them up, like the Hudu book.
Yeah.
I would buy 2, cut them up, and then stick them on the wall. Lazy way of making charts, but it meant that
laminate them too.
Laminate them, and then they lasted me for years. There's a book out there that's A is for Akhlaq. It's got A to Z of all the wonderful ways that you can be kind and you can exercise your Akhlaq and whatever. I bought them 2 books. I think it's time I need to redo them.
But for listeners out there, on a serious note, this isn't planned. The Al-Ansar Bookshop has amazing books, and some of the books are from authors which you wouldn't find probably in Durban. You'd probably find them in Cape Town, or even if they're international authors. But Al-Ansar Bookshop has them.
They do.
And lots of schools, not only religious teachers, but like looking for stories. I know I have non-Muslim friends who have visited the Al-Ansar Bookshop and purchased books, and was so amazed that such gorgeous, interesting, books are there which they can use. So make your way, I think, to the Al-Ansar Bookshop probably after school, and there's also a nice deli there, and my tech Zakia is like probably nodding his head. There's a deli there to relax, so if the little one or dad or mum is a bit tired, they can probably have the sandwich. It's World Read Aloud Day. It's celebrated on the 7th of February. Our guest in studio is Reyhana Sayed. Yes, she's from Creative Classroom Concept, and we're discussing Read Aloud. And there's also a special guest we have here in studio. He's going to tell us what's his favorite group. He is noted for, yes, Siraj Basa. Welcome to School Matters.
Assalamu alaikum, Sumaya and Reyhana.
How
How
are
are
you?
you sisters doing this evening?
Alhamdulillah.
All good?
All good. All
So
good.
you've confused me now. You've confused my entire week. It's Reyhana. We always know it's on a Tuesday. It's School
Yes.
Matters, and Sumaya comes on after me. But today's Monday, which
I have
means
to take out a
that, yeah.
picture of you while you.
Oh, okay. Well, I've never been on this program before. It's
So now we have to ask you,
yeah.
like, it's exam time now, like, what is your favorite book or story that you can recall from when you were a kid? And then your second question would be, what's your favorite story to read to your kid? Or is there a favorite story, like, over and over again? You can read that and you find that that's one of the most amazing stories.
Jack and the Beanstalk.
Ah.
That comes to mind. I would think that really comes to
I
mind.
thought you were going to be sarcastic and say something after that.
Jack and the Beanstalk. Honestly, when you read to kids, you get the traditional ones.
Yeah.
Yes, so those are fairy tales and
Yeah.
the traditional ones. Yeah.
And I like stories of the Prophet.
Amazing, yes.
To read, because there's so much in there. If you talk about the story of Yusuf alayhi salam or Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, there's so much in there that they can learn, and there's so much of benefit that they can derive from there. Many lessons. And my son really enjoys it. When we talk about it, and he's like, tell me that story about the person that got thrown down the well.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Look at that. Yes.
and it really sticks, and I think that's really something which I prefer. Yeah.
Do you have read aloud time in your home?
Yeah, generally around bedtime.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
we were speaking about.
Yeah.
You were saying that it's better to wind down to a good book than to have screen time or any of those time. Other ways I would say are to maybe Play-Doh or something
Yeah.
that's just softer on the brain than something that's overstimulating and then send them
Absolutely.
to bed. So
Yeah.
Raj agrees with us.
Yeah,
Thank you for joining us.
It's parental tips, of course. You got to know how to calm them down, the young ones, especially before bedtime, and it's part of a nighttime routine, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know, so reading books brings back memories for your little ones, especially when you go down. So you said your kids enjoy stories of the prophets and books like that. What do you see your little ones when it comes the exciting bits? So you're good when you're reading?
I would like to think I read with an
Oh,
expression.
well, you have a whole stack of books here.
I
on
would
the
like to think
table.
I read with an expression and do the voices and
And do
everything
the
else.
faces
Yeah,
and do
yeah,
the
yeah.
voices, and that's
Different
exactly we
characters,
said
yeah.
mimicking.
Yeah.
We spoke about
Yeah.
mimicking.
Yeah.
Then eventually, you read with expression, and then
Yeah.
when they are reading, they know that you're just going to read a book monotone.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
In
anything
that
of
pretty
that
morbid
sort.
form. No, you don't
Yeah.
do that. No.
Uh-huh.
You
Do you know
read with
when
expression.
we think about it, we were always, when we were in school, how you hold the book by the spine, how you have the book down, not covered your face. That's so important. Yet we have many children in high school, senior primary, today who are so shy or haven't been taught or not made aware of it, how to really hold a book.
Yes.
Have you ever came across of it? Being an educator?
I make sure that before I start reading, that you do know how to hold the book and how you're going to page the book. So taking care of books are pretty important.
Very important.
And, so knowing that, that book should be valued and that you're just not going to throw them around or anything.
And I don't like when people crease the.
Yes, dog's ears. They're called dog's ears. They're so called dog's ears from the time we were born.
If you remind me a lot, like me, I was going to ask you, back in the day, in those thick books, how many roses you put inside?
Oh,
Siraj, I mean, think about it. We should use books for so many things.
Yes. So you pressed flowers in them, and I would never ever just fold over the book.
Yeah.
When you stopped at a place, it was always that you have a bookmarker. Those are just things that we need to to inculcate in this generation.
Books never ever got wasted, even if it was the telephone directory. Siraj, you ever made that big thing where you, like a heart, you fold those million pages?
No, I haven't.
Never ever tried.
No.
Attempt that.
But do you even get a directory nowadays?
You do?
I don't think so.
You do get them.
They should just fling it into our yards before, but now I don't think they do that. I've never seen
some
that.
places, I have seen, I think last year.
Really?
Last year. So I said, these are like, I've seen it somewhere in a restaurant where those pages were used as wallpaper with varnish, and it was looking so
Wow.
amazing. And I think a lot of youth today little ones don't know that's a phone book. What's a
Yes.
phone book?
Yeah, what's a phone book?
Now we just Google it. It's so much easier.
Yeah, we just
You
Google
you
everything.
just Google it.
We still
But,
Google it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, inshallah, looking forward to just catching you onto our next show.
Let your fingers do the walking was the sign.
yes,
Yellow
yeah,
pages.
pages.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was there. We still remember all of those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks a lot for having me on your show. I really do appreciate it.
Jazakallah.
And all the
Jazakallah.
best. Assalamu
And
alaikum.
speaking about
Walaikum
fingers,
salam.
when children are reading, there's no harm in actually using your finger to point and to
And the
read and to
thing.
see. I mean, even us as adults, if we don't
Yeah.
have our glasses on, then it's quite okay.
For the listeners out there, that is still not convinced on why reading aloud is so important, what is your advice to them?
Still not convinced. I mean, I've been speaking for the last 40 minutes. Then I'm going to say, let me give you a few more reasons. Reading aloud provides children with examples of great writing and model reading strategies. It builds community through offering children an opportunity to share experiences and build connections. I mean, when last have you visited the local library? It exposes children to books and to authors and to all genres of, reading. Then, of course, it supports developing readers by providing them examples of how a fluent reader should be. The kids will say, how do you read so fast, and how do you pick up the words so fast? It's all about, speed reading and seeing the next word and not reading it in isolation.
Yeah, practice makes perfect.
Again, modeling it so that they would do the same eventually when they are reading beautifully storybooks,
Yeah.
And of course, finally, it promotes the love of reading. Most of us have a fond childhood memory of a favorite book. You heard Siraj a few minutes ago. And oftentimes, this book was the read aloud book, So that was the book you took out. Some children took it out all
What
the
was that thick
time.
fairy tale book?
I know there was a Mother Goose one
A thick
with
one.
nursery rhymes.
I had my mum's. It was like actually the pages gone round. It was a whole lot of fairy tales. I don't know what it was
it
called.
would probably Enid Blyton or something of that sort.
a whole lot of books.
And then the Enchanted Wood, or there were so many ones. If I still out there.
If you go back, if you're a child of the 60s, 70s, early 80s, as a teenager, you always copied songs down, wrote things, cut trimmings of sayings,
Yes,
wrote your own little
Scrapbooking.
notes.
Yeah,
That's also kind of wearing out.
yeah, because you read them aloud eventually.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. That's our technician, Zach.
And I know I'm getting caught off guard here again, but I just want to add on into something. You said something about reading out loud. So I remember when I was doing hifz in madrasa, our Mulana used to always, our Mulana, and sometimes if Mulana was not there, we'll have like a sheikh. I remember like, it used to work so perfectly reading out aloud the Quran.
Look at that. Yeah.
It used to work. Well, sometimes even reading silently worked for me, but like reading out loud was very effective. And you remember every word that you read over and over, because we used to recite continuously the same page maybe like 10 times. And then and the thing is like, I don't know how my brain works, but like I noticed that I learned things fast. And if I repeated that over and over again, it worked out for me very well.
Alhamdulillah. Yes. Did you have a favorite book?
Well, to be honest, when I was young, I never really liked reading heavy.
I love that you are so honest,
I found it boring.
Look at that.
A lot of guys find it. I don't know why, but I think what it is, when I asked friends and stuff, there's no pictures.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
But I like the books with the pictures. Yeah, the illustrations. But I noticed now as I'm getting older too, for some reason I enjoy reading. So
I saw you had on your profile some.
Yeah. It's just that if I see a book is interesting, I'll pick it up and I'll read it. Because I don't choose which books I read. If I feel like if it's appealing to me and I could learn something from it, I pick it up and I read it.
Do you know, I have books on my bookshelf. It moved with me throughout. People question me. I know my husband asked me, and I'll tell him like, but that's like a memory. It's like a feeling and like an emotion. That book, you got that book. If you pull that book out, you go back into time.
Yes.
And also if it was a brand new book, just doing whatever you have to do, whether it's your chores or whatever, and then sitting down and opening and smelling that the fresh pages of that book.
Yeah.
That was what a feeling. We have some messages. Maybe you can read them also on the
It
screen
says,
there.
Salam, sisters. One of the valuable books available at the Al Ansar Bookshop is Stories on the Prophets. And it says, which is an excellent read for character building. And it's just Jazakallah, Mrs. Muhammad. And somebody says, yeah, listening to your wonderful show by chance. I think they did expect it to be tomorrow. So we say shukran to you and shukran for your beautiful messages.
Okay, there's another message here from Issa Fables from Ghulam Ali, Central Dublin. I think, there was another message.
I think, yes, Aesop Fables. That was the name of the book, the very thick book
Yes,
with all the
yes,
stories in it.
wow, yes.
Jazakallah to the brother.
You know what?
Ghulam,
I think the book is still at
messaged us.
my dad's place. And
Yes.
my sister was even saying, she's also an educator, you know what, maybe we should get them laminated.
Yeah, and keep
Because
it.
the illustrations and the way the like the fables, the stories, is like watching a movie, even though it's drawn. And I think that book must be like, what, 60 years old maybe? Yeah, I think it's older. But those are memories. And, for teachers there from the government sector who are saying our kids struggle, they can look at the pictures and want to act that out and write their own picture stories. And
Yes.
this also encourages them to read.
Yeah, and I mean, Sumaya, one of the questions might be, how do we choose read aloud material? So
Yeah.
how do we choose it? I would say that you find your niche. So you find your
Yeah.
child's niche, and meaning you find what it is that your child likes, and then you work from that and you roll with that.
Yeah.
So as I was saying, is that it might be something like Roald Dahl, it might be Dr. Seuss. I have to warn you out there that if it is Dr. Seuss, then you
Dr.
have to be very, very, and I brought one. I mean, I brought my cat in the hat.
Yeah.
You have to be very brave and not get tongue-tied, because it is about rhyme and rhythm, and so you have to be a very confident read aloud mum or dad or teacher before. It's a good place to practice.
14 years
One
old.
of my favorite
Yeah.
books, and we're speaking about, I hope we're speaking about my favorite books now, is the autobiography, if I have to say, of Dr. Seuss. And it's called Imagine That. And it says how Dr. Seuss wrote The Cat in the Hat. It's an amazing
Big
book.
book.
I love this book. This is my favorite read aloud book at the moment. This book is about how kids all across America could not read. They couldn't understand why children were struggling to read. And then they told the famous author, Dr. Seuss, would you be able to make a book using the 200 words? And what they were speaking about was the normal, I would say, Dolch
Everything.
word list, the breakthrough word list, the basic word list, sight word list that children learn nowadays. And
Yeah.
he said, of course I can. And if you don't know, Dr. Seuss was a person that he worked in a little room, and his room was full of hats. And that's where I think that the term put on your thinking caps came
Came
about,
from.
because he would take a hat, he would take a pirate's hat and he'd put it on, and then he would think better. Or he'd change his hat to
Yeah.
think better. So put on your thinking
Thinking hat.
caps, and this is one of the most
Wow,
amazing
that's absolutely
books, yeah.
amazing. We have tons of messages coming in. Great show. Being an educator, I'm just so motivated to want to read for my class, especially with the learners who cannot read. Rounding up, quick one, what you guys have planned and what advice you have for just educators. What you all have planned for
So
school.
what do I have planned? I started
Something
last
exciting.
week already. I started, and my focus I have a team of people, and we call it Growing Great Readers. It's a team of us. And one of our activities that we did was that each teacher had to block their face, holding a
saw
book, and then the kids had to guess who it was. So it was that teachers read to Can You Guess Who? And I reveal all of it with the prizes and everything on Thursday. But on Wednesday, we have invited guests. So each teacher at Al Falah College, the foundation place, we had to invite guests. I know you're going to be one of the guests. We have an amazing lineup of guests, We have
I'm so excited about
we
it
have a
myself.
pilot. We have an author himself, Abdullah Suji. He's
Yeah.
in-house, and it's always nice to look in-house. We have Mr. Hatia,
Yeah.
and we are excited that he's going to read. We have I have chili chocolate chefs. We have Bethel Hikmah. We have parents. We have just principals. We have so many
It's
people
exciting.
who are going to come in.
Teamwork.
So that's what our
Dreamwork.
plans is. The objective is to show the children that adults read too.
Exactly.
That read aloud is so fun, and that it isn't a task, and it isn't
we're
just
not
I'm
only on our
testing the
phones.
reading,
Yeah.
and I need to learn my book, and I need to. It's that enjoyment of picking up print media and enjoying a good story for that session. So
Yeah.
inshallah, we hope that's going to be.
Sister Reyhana, there's more messages I think coming on. Salams, listening to your wonderful shows by John Smear. Message from a listener. Yeah, I think it's also taking us down memory lane because libraries are becoming dinosaurs. That we have to do a show.
Yes, yeah.
Because if you're thinking about we need to create literacy, there's a whole lot of WhatsApp
So
messages.
I feel like when we speak about that, and I'll speak about that very quickly, is that the content is not changing. So you're still going to the library, and I think that maybe you don't want to change and be up with it, with the latest books that are out. I mean, I think all these books that I have here are totally. Zain Bika has the most amazing songbooks.
Exactly. Wow.
He has the most amazing songbooks. I have every single one of them,
Wow.
And
I'm coming to your library.
and if you think about it, like you think I can't read, but I know the song Cotton Candy Sky. I know Pizza in My Pocket, so
It's there.
obviously I can read because automatically, because I know the lyrics, it's flowing. There's so many amazing books
things
out there.
There's messages coming. Salams, thank you for informative show. Reading aloud also helps in understanding and remembering. This comes from Nafisa Hassan. We have another Sister Amina. MashaAllah, great show. Yes, I think we need to create that hype. We need to market literacy.
Yes.
It's actually a human right. We need to market that. Well, thank you so much for being a guest. Time just goes. We need like a 2-hour show. A 2-hour show. All the best. I will definitely see you at the Read Aloud, and looking forward for all that you have planned. And I know, don't worry, listeners, I'll definitely come in and inform you how it was. And I know it'll be really, really good. Zach, thank you for contributing and always be a great tech. Zach has been, I love saying this, a little boy running around the studio. Now he's a great big man, and he enjoys reading. And
he was so brave to tell us that. I didn't, but I do. I hope you weren't feeling like, what, this teacher's here and I need to say the right thing.
My email address is sumayakhan.alansar@outlook.com. Children are made readers on the laps of their parents. Reading gives us, samples and the most fun, satisfying feelings. Think before you speak, read before you think. A book is a gift you can open again and again. Assalamu alaikum.